Your vote is your voice. Be heard. Bollocks it is. How can the vote be your voice when the people you're given the choice of voting for that have any chance of forming a government are standing on the same postage stamp of political policy and perception? There's no choice. We've reached a point now where the vote becomes a voice when we refuse to vote. We refuse to play the game anymore.
The $700 billion bailout for Wall Street is being driven by fear, not fact. This is too much money in too short a time, going to too few people, while too many questions remain unanswered. Why aren't we having hearings on the plan we just received? Why aren't we questioning the underlying premise of the need for a bailout with taxpayers' money? Why have we not even considered any alternatives other than to give $700 billion to Wall Street? Why aren't we asking Wall Street to clean up its own mess? Why aren't we passing new laws to stop the speculation which triggered this? Why aren't we putting up new regulatory structures to protect the investors? How do we even value the $700 billion in toxic assets? Why aren't we directly helping homeowners with their debt burden? Why aren't we helping American families faced with bankruptcy? Why aren't we reducing debts for Main Street instead of Wall Street? Isn't it time for fundamental change in our debt-based monetary system so we can free ourselves from the manipulation of by the Federal Reserve and the banks? Is this the United States Congress or the board of directors of Goldman Sachs? Wall Street is a place of bears and bulls. It's not smart to force taxpayers to dance with bears or to follow closely behind the bulls.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from South Carolina.
What would have happened at this recent election, this farce, if tens of millions of people had said, we've had a bellyful, we're not voting, it only encourages them? We are not voting because we're going to make a statement that we know this system is rigged and we're having it no more. What would have happened in these days that have passed since that election? The whole focus of the media and everything would have been, bloody hell, what's going on? Why this mass refusal not to vote? Now we've got a debate going. Now we're looking at why people haven't voted, because the system is rigged. Now the system has to bloody start to change because it's lost its credibility. But instead, the majority trotted along to vote because they said, well, if you don't vote for them, they might get it. It doesn't matter! They're masses on the same face. So what if they get in? Same thing will bloody happen.
Now, we just showed a report comparing Libya to the former Yugoslavia exactly 12 years ago. What do you make of all this?
Well, it just keeps going on and on. Any excuse that the United States has to attack another country, they just make it up. It's not about a humanitarian crisis. And besides that, it's a civil war, and it's none of the United States' business. Here, they're talking about the Republicans and the Democrats about balancing the budget in the U.S. as they're just blowing away probably $1 billion in a week bombing another country. How about fixing up Detroit, whose population has declined from 2 million to about 700,000? How about fixing Camden? Now, this is just war, and war's a racket.
To send more troops to the war in Afghanistan, Barack Obama in Norway to receive his Nobel Peace Prize awarded in October. Republican Congressman Ron Paul says Obama's recent war plans show he shouldn't have been awarded the Peace Prize.
He should have returned it down. I mean, he's expanding the war, and the people should be embarrassed. I mean, how can you believe in preventive war, that is, belief in the principle of starting wars and expanding wars, and get a peace prize? I mean, I don't see any signs of peace. I see that the world is more dangerous. It was more dangerous to the last administration, and the danger continues to expand with this administration.
More and more people killed through war, killed through bombing attacks, killed through shootings, killed through lack of food and adequate medical care. Gaza, the most crowded piece of land on earth, is little more, ironically, than a concentration camp. And the world looks on. We've been totally misled about what it is. Rothschild dynasty created Israel, It paid for the first people out of Europe to go and people Israel after the war. It paid for the building of the Knesset. It paid for the building of the Supreme Court building with all its Illuminati symbols all over it. And some of the people who've broken out of the family, I quote one of them in my book, have actually said, and as I've been saying for years, because it's bloody obvious, that Israel is not the homeland of Jewish people. It is the fiefdom of the Rothschild dynasty, created out of Rothschild Zionism, a secret society. And Rothschild Zionism has been used via Israel to devastate, slaughter, torture an entire nation of human beings, while claiming to be against terrorism. We've got to go for that. I mean, and people, Jewish people, have seen it. They can see what it is. There's some fantastic Jewish people in Israel who are resisting this. Young people who go to jail because they won't serve in the army because of what the army's doing to the Palestinians. Magnificent people who never get talked about in the mainstream media, hardly.
I mean, in terms of what's going on now, what's your assessment of what Israel is doing in Gaza?
I can answer you with 2 words: a war crime. My government is now engaged in a massive war crime, killing hundreds of innocents. It's not just a war crime against the Palestinians, it's a crime against the Israeli people. And on behalf of thousands of Israelis that are demonstrating right now in the streets of Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, and in many other places, with Palestinians, with internationals, people from all kind of background and all parts of the Israeli society are completely ashamed and against this crazy assault. We know that you cannot kill, as Jewish people, we know that you cannot kill the desire of people to be free. As a Jewish person that was raised on all these values of liberation and humanity and freedom, we cannot kill the desire of the Palestinian people to live in freedom. And on behalf of those people in Israel and in the world, I want to call the international community, the Jewish community in the world, and everyone that listens to me now, please join our force to stop this massive killing. Please, for the sake of Israel, for the sake of Palestine, and for the sake of the world, I want to cry and to shout and ask you, people are dying right now. The rockets, by the way, can kill also me and my parents when we work in the south, not far from Gaza. But it's crazy that my government, at the same time that people are being killed on our side, is continuing this crazy assault, thinking that they can kill the desire of millions of people to be free.
But the argument your government has, Tzipi Livni, was saying that it's extremists responsible, a small number granted, but every rocket that's fired out of Gaza into Israel must be stopped, and this is an act of defense.
Yeah, and the Palestinians will say the same thing. This is an act of defense. They are being trapped in this open-air prison for decades, and they cannot eat, they cannot have medicine, they cannot go in, they cannot go out. We lock them there in a big ghetto, and we have to put the words in a very clear context. We are locking this 1.5 million people for so long, and we treat them as animals, and this is the result.
What are the changes that could be interpreted as a materialization of the popular demands there?
Well, I think that we need to reach a point now in history where we realize that this war on terror is a war of terror, and everybody who plays a role in that so-called war on terror is in fact a collaborator with American imperialism and the denial of human rights. I believe, personally, but it's not up to me. It's to us as people, not just the Egyptian people, all of us, because we're all connected. Everyone stands to gain by the success of these revolutions in the Middle East, and everyone stands to lose if these revolutions fail. So we must make sure that the people's will is respected. And the only way that it will be respected is by the very same thing that we're seeing right now, and that is that governments have started to fear the people. Only when governments fear the people do they actually do what we demand that they do. Otherwise, they do all the same old things that they've been doing in Egypt, which torturing people, imprisoning people, killing people. I believe that everything should center around our rights, a Bill of Rights, human rights. Everyone has rights, and don't you dare tell me that you're going to provide me security, but you have to take away my rights. No, we have rights, and don't you even think to take away those rights. And I believe that should be the center of all of our movements. Every single person shall be respected. And until such day that every single person on this planet is respected, there will never be justice, and for damn sure there will never be peace. The only way we're going to have peace is when we have justice. So we must demand justice, and we must be willing to die if necessary. And I want to say love and respect to all the revolutionaries out there. I want to say love and respect big time to the military who have put down their weapons. And if you need to, if your commanders are ordering you to kill the people, then maybe you should turn your weapons on those commanders.
You just referred there in
because
your
they
comments.
Are treasonous.
Yeah, you just referred there in your comments. What do you think the Arab uprising is about when we're speaking about the Israeli lobby, about the United States, their concerns? Will they be able to, in the protesters' words, hijack these uprisings?
Yes, if the people do not continue to maintain the pressure, continue to do what they're doing, let us not rest easy. Let us not listen to the words restraint or calm. Let us be resolute. Let us be determined, and let us never give up. I myself know that the powers that be are desperate. The Israeli Zionist project, the American imperialist project, is on its knees. It is trying everything it can to try and maintain the system of power that has put people through hell for decades and decades. And if we do not stop, if we do not give up, we can succeed. And the whole planet, all people will succeed if we do manage to not allow the tyranny to continue. And I must say one last thing, Palestine. That's where we're going ultimately. Palestine must be free. There is no question about that. It is at the heart of all injustice. So let it happen sooner rather than later.